It was just a sound. Barely there, a muffled rhythm behind a half-open door. I wasn't trying to pry. I was just walking past. But something pulled me closer. A strange silence that didn't feel like peace. And then I saw him. Caleb. His laptop was open, his eyes locked on the screen. And in that moment, everything inside me froze. Embarrassment, shock. But above all, something I couldn't name. I should have turned away. But I didn't, and what happened after that? Stay with me until the end to find out what really happened. Welcome to Vows and Betrayals, where quiet homes hide the loudest truths. Have you ever walked in on something that changed how you saw someone? Share your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for being here. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories that make you feel, remember, and question. Let's begin. Hey, I'm Helen Whitmore. I'm 47. I live in a small white house tucked at the edge of Cedar Grove, Vermont. The kind of town where you know your mailman's name and silence isn't unsettling most of the time. I've been here alone since Thomas passed. 26 years of marriage, 4 of caregiving, and now, just me and the creaking wood floors. That afternoon had been like any other. I'd folded laundry, prepped a casserole, answered a few emails. The air was soft with early autumn leaves, just starting to curl at the edges, a breeze carrying the smell of pine and chimney smoke. It was calm, familiar, too familiar. I remember walking upstairs, my hands still warm from the laundry basket. I wasn't thinking. I wasn't snooping. But then I passed Caleb's door. It was ajar, just a crack, just enough. And from inside, a flickering glow spilled into the hallway, the unmistakable light of a screen. Caleb Monroe, 23, rents the upstairs guest room. Quiet, polite, respectful. He moved in 3 months ago after answering a handwritten notice I posted at the town library. He kept to himself, mostly. A freelance artist, he worked from home. I hardly noticed when he was here. But that day, I noticed. I paused. Something felt off. Not wrong exactly, but off. The air felt heavier near his door. The stillness had a shape, and then I heard it. A sound. Rhythmic. Soft. A little too soft. My instincts told me to keep walking, but my body didn't listen. I shifted just slightly to glance inside. What I saw, I can't fully explain. Caleb sat on the edge of his bed, back slightly hunched, the laptop open across his lap. The screen cast his face in cold blue. His hands moved in a way that made my breath catch. For a split second, I thought he was watching a film. But when I leaned just slightly, just enough, to change the angle, something inside me seized. A cold rush swept through my chest as if the very air had turned against me. And in that moment, with terrible, blinding clarity, I understood exactly what I was seeing. At first, I thought he didn't notice me. He was still almost frozen, his body tense, but his focus locked on the screen in front of him. The glow of the laptop bathed his face in a sickly, flickering light. His hands moved, then paused, and suddenly I understood. Not all at once. It came in flashes. His posture, his breathing, the unmistakable rhythm of it. This wasn't a movie. This wasn't innocent. I took one step back, but the floor creaked. His head whipped toward the door. His eyes met mine. And in that exact unbearable second, the world cracked open between us. He gasped. His whole body jolted, as though pulled out of a trance. In one frantic motion, he yanked a blanket across his lap, fumbled to slam the laptop shut, and reached for the headphones dangling from the bedpost. I didn't hear you, he stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. The heat that flooded my chest didn't feel like rage. It was mortification, confusion. His cheeks turned deep red. His jaw clenched. He couldn't look at me. I opened my mouth, maybe to apologize, maybe to ask why I didn't knock, but nothing came out. Just a breath caught in my throat. My skin prickled. My ears buzzed. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. The silence between us expanded like a bruise. Finally, he spoke, barely audible. I'm sorry. I thought the door was closed. Still, I said nothing. I backed away. One step, then another, turned. Walked fast, maybe too fast. Back down the stairs, heart pounding like a fist in my ribcage. By the time I reached the kitchen, I was breathless, humiliated. Not just for him, but for myself. What had I just witnessed? What had I interrupted? And why? Why did it feel like something far more dangerous had just been unlocked inside me? After that moment at Caleb's door, I couldn't unsee what I'd seen. But before I tell you what came next, you need to know where all this began. Thomas and I were married for 26 years. He was steady, patient, and kind in a quiet way that never needed to be loud. When he got sick, we fought together. 4 years of hospital chairs, whispered prayers, and slow, inevitable loss. When he died, the house went quiet. Not just quiet, hollow. At first, I thought I'd keep it all just as it was. But grief doesn't let you live in a museum. So, 3 months ago, I cleared out the upstairs guest room and taped a small flyer on the bulletin board at the town library. 1 week later, Caleb showed up. He was polite, courteous, said he needed a quiet place to work on his art. He paid rent in cash, brought his own linens, and didn't ask questions. Most days, I barely heard him. Sometimes, I'd see him sketching on the back porch, a mug of coffee balanced on the rail beside him, his long fingers moving steadily across the page. We shared the same space, but not much else. No real conversation, just nods. The occasional exchange about garbage pickup or missing mail. It wasn't cold. It was just distant. And that distance suited me. Until the night it collapsed without warning. I tried to pretend nothing had happened. Tried to smile when we passed each other in the hallway. Tried to carry on with my quiet routines. Boiling tea, watering plants, folding laundry, with the radio playing softly in the background. But the house didn't feel the same. It wasn't what I saw. Not exactly. It was the silence after. The way Caleb's footsteps avoided the kitchen when I was there. The way we both paused before entering shared spaces. Like two ghosts circling the same house, careful not to haunt each other too loudly. But then small things began to change. One morning, I found a sketchbook left open on the dining table. I don't know if he meant to leave it there. I told myself I shouldn't look, but I did. The drawing was simple, just the back of a woman's head, sitting in an armchair by the window, shoulders slumped slightly, hands folded in her lap. But I knew that silhouette. It was me. My breath hitched. I closed the sketchbook and walked away pretending I hadn't seen it. That evening, as I stood at the sink washing dishes, I felt his presence before I heard his steps. He walked in slowly, as if testing the ground. I didn't turn. He stood behind me for a moment silent. Then softly, I didn't mean for you to see that. The other day. I kept my hands in the water, said nothing. I'm not like that. I don't know why I didn't close the door. I'm sorry. I could hear the strain in his voice. Not guilt, shame. When I finally turned around, he was already looking down. It's fine, I said. Let's just move on. But we didn't. Not really. Because some kind of quiet thread had been pulled loose between us. Something awkward. Something electric. And even though neither of us said it, we both felt it. A few days later, I found something slipped beneath the front door. No envelope. Just a single sheet of paper, folded once. I picked it up absent-mindedly, assuming it was a local flyer, maybe for chimney cleaning or window repair. But when I unfolded it, my hands froze. There were no ads, no names, just 6 words typed in blocky, uneven print. You're not the only one watching. I stood in the foyer, breath caught halfway between inhale and panic. The paper trembled in my hands. My skin went cold. I looked outside. No one. The street was empty, just a passing breeze, kicking up a few crisp leaves on the sidewalk. I shut the door and locked it without thinking. For the rest of the day, I couldn't focus. I kept replaying the words in my head. What did they mean? Was someone watching me? Or Caleb? Or both of us? That evening, I sat in the living room with the letter tucked under a coaster, as if hiding it might make it go away. Caleb came down to get a glass of water. I glanced up as he passed through. His face was unreadable. Not tense, not relaxed, just blank. But I couldn't shake the thought. Was it him who left the note? If not, who else knew what happened that night? The next morning, I scanned every crack in the windows, checked the porch light 3 times, walked the perimeter of the house like I was defending a secret no one had asked me to keep. By afternoon, I had convinced myself it was a prank. Teenagers, maybe. Someone saw me and Caleb walking out of the store together once and got ideas. But even that didn't make sense. I hadn't told anyone. Caleb kept to himself. There was no one else who knew. Unless someone had seen something we hadn't. And that thought, that someone somewhere knew more than we did, was the first time this whole thing stopped being just uncomfortable and started to feel dangerous. It was the silence that did it. The kind that creeps in after too many things go unsaid. Not cold silence, not angry, just saturated. For days, Caleb and I moved around each other like careful choreography. His steps on the stairs slowed when he heard mine. I kept the kitchen light dimmer than usual, as if brightness might make everything too visible. Neither of us mentioned the note, not even a hint. And yet I knew he felt the shift. Knew he noticed me noticing him. Then one night the power went out. It wasn't storming. No wind, no rain, just sudden darkness. I fumbled through drawers for a flashlight, but found only an old candle and matches. The room lit with a soft, flickering glow. A knock on the kitchen door startled me. I turned candle, trembling in my hand. It was Caleb. I figured you might need a second candle, he said, holding one out. I hesitated, then nodded. He stepped in careful slow. For the first time in days, we stood face to face in a space that didn't feel haunted. The light between us was warm, uneven, human. I motioned toward the table and we sat. No words at first, just the sound of candle wax dripping and the faint tick of the kitchen clock. Then quietly he said, I used to draw my mom during blackouts. It was the only time she stayed still long enough for me to really see her. I looked at him, surprised. He shrugged. She was never really there, even when she was. Something cracked open in me at that moment, not because I related to his mother, but because I knew what it was to feel unseen in your own house. I nodded. I know what that's like, I said. He looked up, his eyes soft. And just like that, the tension that had built between us shifted, became something quieter, not erased, just softened. And when he smiled just a little, It wasn't the awkward, guilt-ridden grin of before. It was something else. Something that made me feel like for the first time in a long while someone was seeing me again. The email came at 2:43 a.m. I wasn't asleep. Something had kept me restless that night, a storm of thoughts I couldn't shut off. When I finally checked my phone, the screen lit up with a single new message. No subject line, no sender name I recognized. Just one line in the body of the email. "You really don't know who's watching, do you?" Beneath it was a link. No message. No explanation. Every bone in my body told me not to click, but I did. The video was grainy. Static flickered at the edges, like it had been pulled from some old security camera. At first, I couldn't make sense of what I was seeing. Just my living room. The soft, familiar couch. The lamp I always forget to dust. Then I saw myself, sitting in that very spot, sipping tea, reading, alone, or so I had thought. And then the camera moved, tilted, zoomed slightly. Someone had been filming me from inside the house. I froze. The angle wasn't from a window. It was from above the corner where the smoke alarm used to be before I had it replaced 2 months ago. My stomach dropped. This wasn't a prank. This was real. Someone had set up a hidden camera in my home, and worse, someone had access to it now. I sat there, heart hammering against my ribs, watching myself in the footage. And then, at the end of the clip, a voice. Distorted, filtered, but undeniably male. "Do you still think he's harmless?" I shut the phone off, dropped it on the couch, like it had burned me. My breath was shallow. My hands were slick with sweat. Was it Caleb? Had he recorded me? Or was someone trying to frame him? I didn't know what terrified me, more the idea that he had done it, or that someone else was watching us both. For the first time since my husband died, I felt truly unsafe in my own home. And the worst part, I had no idea where to turn. I waited until the next evening. I had rehearsed what I'd say a dozen times, accusatory, then gentle, then demanding. But when Caleb came downstairs wearing the same faded hoodie, eyes soft from lack of sleep, all my lines vanished. "Can we talk?" I asked. He nodded slowly, then followed me into the living room. I gestured for him to sit, but I remained standing, hands clenched around the edge of the armchair. "I got an email," I said, "with a video." His posture stiffened. Of me, I continued. "Inside this house." A silence fell like a stone between us. His brow furrowed. Then he swallowed hard. "I didn't film you," he said immediately. "I swear, I wouldn't." I studied him. Was that panic or guilt? He leaned forward, elbows on knees. "But I did something else." I waited. "There was a moment," he said, voice thick with remorse, "weeks ago. You were in the garden. The light on your hair, it reminded me of someone. I sketched it." He looked up. Then I kept sketching. From memory at first. Then, I guess I got carried away. I took a sharp breath. Carried away how I used to set my phone on the counter. "Not to record you," he said quickly, "just to capture the light, the way it hit certain corners. But yeah, you were in the frame." He hung his head. "I deleted them. Every one. I felt gross." My stomach turned. Part anger, part pity. "So it was you?" "No. Not that video," he said quickly. "That was not me. Someone else must have." He broke off. I stared at him, heart racing. "If someone else is watching," I whispered, "why send it to me now?" He shook his head slowly. "Maybe because we got too close." And suddenly I realized This wasn't just about shame or awkward tension anymore. This was a warning. 2 nights later, the phone rang at 11:09 p.m. Not my cell, the landline. No one called it anymore except telemarketers or the bank. I let it ring once, twice. Then I picked up. Hello, silence. Then a breath and a voice distorted but deliberate. He's lying to you, Helen. I froze. Who is this? Another pause. Then, as if reading my mind, he didn't delete the footage. A click. The line went dead. I stood there for a long moment, phone still pressed to my ear, my heart like thunder behind my ribs. Every instinct screamed, run, but instead, I walked. Upstairs, past the creaky stair, past the guest bathroom, to Caleb's door. It was unlocked. Inside, the light was off, but the screen of his laptop glowed faintly on the desk. I stepped closer. No password prompt, just a paused video timeline. My finger hovered over the spacebar. One tap. The clip began to play. It wasn't surveillance. It was me. Doing the most ordinary things, watering plants, folding laundry, brushing my hair. All recorded from angles inside the house I hadn't noticed. Each clip just a few seconds. But there were dozens, and they were dated, spanning weeks. He hadn't deleted them. He had organized them. A folder named Helen, Study in Stillness. My hands trembled. Behind me, the floor creaked. I spun around. Caleb stood in the doorway, his expression unreadable, caught somewhere between shame and something eerily calm. You weren't supposed to see that, he said softly. I took a step back. You told me I didn't know how to explain it, he interrupted. It started as art, observation, but you were so quiet and sad and beautiful in the silence. I stared at him, unable to speak. I never meant to hurt you, he said, and I believed him. But I also knew this wasn't just about intention. It was about violation, about trust broken in the shadows of what someone calls art. And in that moment, something inside me shifted. I wasn't afraid, not anymore. I was furious. I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I simply said, you need to leave tomorrow. There was no dramatic outburst, just a long silence and then a quiet nod. That night, I double-checked the doors. I unplugged the router. I closed every curtain. And in the morning, Caleb packed his bags. He didn't say much, only, I'm sorry, truly. I nodded, but I didn't forgive him. Not yet. He left just after noon. The house felt hollow for a while, but not unsafe. Just quiet. And this time, the quiet was mine. Days passed. I contacted a technician. We swept the house. No other cameras. I changed the locks. And for the first time in years, I sat in my own kitchen and sipped tea without glancing over my shoulder. No one was watching. But that wasn't the real healing. The real healing came the day I finally opened my sketchbook again. It had sat in the back of my closet since my husband passed. Drawing used to be our thing. After he was gone, it felt like betrayal to do it without him. But that day, I let myself draw again. Not for anyone else. Not to be seen. Just for me. To this day, I don't know who the anonymous caller was. A neighbor. Someone watching us both. A stranger who stumbled onto something he shouldn't have. He knew too much. More than Caleb admitted. More than I was ever supposed to know. Why did he send the video to me and not the police? Why did he only call once? Sometimes I wonder if he wanted to protect me. Other times I wonder if he was part of something bigger. Something I still haven't seen. And maybe I never will. but his voice, that single call, forced the truth out from the shadows. And for that, I'm strangely grateful. Loneliness makes you blind to slow-moving harm. Not everything that feels intimate is good. Not everyone who sees you deserves to. And boundaries. They aren't just to keep danger out. They're how you learn to live with yourself, with dignity, with peace. So, if you've ever felt like a ghost in your own home, I see you. And maybe it's time to reclaim the silence. You're watching Vows and Betrayals, where we honor hard truths and the strength it takes to face them. Drop a comment if you've ever let someone too close for the sake of not being alone. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell. You never know whose story might wake something in you.